Donald MacNeil leaves his flat in Hartlepool on a cold morning, walking the short distance through streets he has known all his life, until he reaches the small social club that has become, by routine and repetition, something like a second home, a place where the faces are familiar and the hours pass quietly. It is inside this ordinary room that a single phone call will push him towards a decision that will change everything. It is November 1999. His life is about to change, but he does not know it yet. The club's phone rings while he is there, but he pays it no attention. To his surprise, he is told the call is for him. When he answers, he hears the voice of a man whom he later introduces as Frank. This man says that he is in the Mediterranean with another Briton, Venezuela, and that they are looking for someone who knows how to handle a yacht. They want to hire someone who can teach them to steer a boat or help them get out of a marina because they are stuck and need assistance. The offer is straightforward. He receives £1,000 for a simple, uncomplicated, and non-hazardous job, one that requires only skill and experience. For MacNeil, the timing matters because winter in Hartlepool is hard on a sailor's pocket. Work dries up, money is thin, and the idea of quick pay for a few days or weeks' labor sounds like an easy solution. The way Frank describes it gives no reason for alarm. It is just a matter of lending a hand, and so the hesitation is brief, the decision is quick. MacNeil agrees with little more than a few words across the line. Besides, he recognizes the voice. He met Frank and his friend Venezuela 18 months ago. Later, MacNeil will recall that he did not know Frank very well, and that Frank and Whale are only acquaintances. Still, in that moment, the lack of detail did not stop him, because the prospect of a job and the need for money carried more weight than caution. In the ordinary rhythm of that day, the decision seemed small, no more than a plan to step onto a boat and bring it out to sea. They arrange the details, and MacNeil tells himself that there is no reason to question it, because yachts change hands in foreign marinas all the time. After all, men like him are called out for short-term work without much explanation. But the truth is that the call is the first step in a chain that will pull tighter with every mile, because the plan is not a simple sailing job, the money is not a harmless bonus, and the voyage is not about moving a yacht across the Mediterranean at all. Though MacNeil cannot see it yet, he is the only one in the dark about the true purpose and course of the voyage. Frank is actually Edward Jarvis, a 40-year-old Liverpudlian involved in a complex international cocaine plot, operating under false names and elaborate deception. Venezuela is a 38-year-old British crew member, drawn into the voyage and responsible for practical tasks aboard the yacht. The sailor, Donald MacNeil, is a man with a family and a daughter he loves very much, experienced at sea, careful in his work, and focused on navigating the voyage despite the risks imposed by others. The decision to say yes has already set him on a path that will lead across the Atlantic, into waters controlled by traffickers, and finally into a Venezuelan prison. MacNeil finds his way to the Mediterranean to meet Frank and Whale. When MacNeil steps onto the deck, and the moment his boots land, he knows something is wrong because the mast leans in a way it should not. Within seconds, he cannot hide his horror at a rigging that is threatening to fail. Whale, who never liked the boat in the first place, watches him and says plainly that he doesn't like it. He doesn't understand sails, and he is not ashamed to say he is glad someone who knows how to handle them is there. Frank comes aboard later, and when he does, they set off towards Malta. There is an initial burst of enthusiasm, and some take pride in having gotten away, and that the passage has begun. MacNeil allows himself, briefly, to think that everything will go smoothly, but the calm is short-lived because the way the others treat the voyage makes him suspect sailing is not the real purpose of the trip. They are lying around when they are supposed to be learning to steer the boat. As the miles put distance between them and the islands, small things accumulate. The men's lack of basic knowledge, the half answers to direct questions, the oddness of some remarks, and the way Frank begins to show impatience when the weather throws the boat about. His temper flares when the motion makes life uncomfortable, and at one point, he tells MacNeil that if he doesn't do something about the motion, he will throw him overboard. That's one threat that lands hard because it is delivered in frustration and reveals an edge of aggression beneath Frank's casual talk. Whale grows increasingly uneasy in the same days, but Frank is his longtime friend, and he will do anything for him. He will help him commit a crime for as little as a bag of chips. But this time around, he is getting a better deal. $40,000 in cash is a substantial amount for just one small boat trip. By the time they reach Malta, the tension is thick enough to crack. As soon as they touch land, Frank asks to speak with him. It is the beginning of a nightmare. Frank, who has so far relied on bluster and threats to keep control, now speaks in plain terms. He asks if MacNeil has already realized that the voyage is not about sailing or about learning how to sail. They have got something naughty planned. He says, "We intend to take the boat across the Atlantic and pick up a consignment of drugs, cocaine." MacNeil has visions of labs, consorts, police carrying about, and of drug dealers in South America. He drops the bomb without ceremony. He drops it like a weight, and it leaves MacNeil in no doubt about why he is here. The job is simple on the surface. He is to captain the boat across the Atlantic, carry the load, and deliver it to its destination. Frank reminds MacNeil that he is now a party to information that is extremely dangerous. If he does something that causes the operation to blow up, if he crosses the operation, there will be no place in the world to hide. The decision had to be yes. MacNeil hears the words and recognizes them for what they are. It is not just a warning, but a declaration of how deep he is already entangled, how even knowing this much makes him complicit. Smuggling cocaine is an illegal criminal offense, but Frank doesn't care. For this, he is told, he will be paid £40,000, a sum large enough to tempt but spoken with the force of an order rather than an offer. They leave Malta with no more illusions. Everyone aboard the boat is now an enlightened participant. Willingness was not necessary, and MacNeil cannot seem to escape the traps of this nightmare. The Atlantic stretches out before them, endless miles of water, storms, and silence, and the boat becomes both lifeline and prison. MacNeil does what he has always done. He keeps the vessel steady, trims the sails, steers through swells, but the atmosphere aboard is already poisoned. The two other men soon realize that they have just said goodbye to land. The water becomes a foe. Frank grows more aggressive, snapping at every shift of the deck. MacNeil finds himself carrying the responsibility for 3 men instead of 1, for a voyage whose purpose he wishes he had never learned. On the boat, they fall into a routine. There are 4 hours of work and 8 hours of sleep. But by the first night, Whale's head is in pieces. Seasickness comes quickly, and soon they are sick of the sea itself. Exhaustion takes a toll on them. At last, after weeks of unbroken horizon, land comes into view. They arrive in Antigua. Frank, Whale, and MacNeil are excited to see land. Even Frank's mood enjoys a facelift. He thanks MacNeil for getting them to Antigua. It has taken 23 long, tense days to get here, each day filled with uncertainty, the threat of capture never far from their minds. The thought of the showers they can finally take feels almost indulgent, almost luxurious compared with the constant tension of being hunted. For a moment, it is enough to make Frank smile. But MacNeil knows that should be the least of his worries, because he is about to be abandoned. No sooner have they touched down in Antigua than an aeroplane appears, descending sharply above the harbor. The timing is unexpected, almost too precise. Frank looks up, eyes glinting, and remarks that the timing is perfect. Everyone exchanges puzzled glances. Then, in a casual tone that only deepens the confusion, Frank mentions that he has a girlfriend. The words hang in the air, strange and out of place, leaving MacNeil and the others more bewildered than ever. 20 seconds after reaching Antigua, Frank disappears. He leaves without explanation, and every pound they have accumulated vanishes with him. In an instant, the safety net they thought they had is gone. They check into a 5-star hotel. The lobby is pristine, the suites immaculate. Everything is picture perfect. And yet there is one glaring problem. There is no money to buy food. MacNeil reflects on the haul, on the 30 million pounds of drugs they were supposed to move. Some of it should have translated into cash, into spending money. But there is nothing. Nothing at all. The idea of leaving crosses his mind, but every route, every escape plan, ends with the same grim outcome. Out there, beyond the hotel walls, escape means death. Staying is not a choice. It is a necessity, however grim. Hunger becomes almost secondary to the gnawing uncertainty, the fear that their fate is no longer in their hands. And then, just when they begin to adjust, the elusive Frank returns. No explanations, no apology, no hint of where he has been. They are on the move again. This time, the destination is Venezuela. The journey stretches ahead of them, longer, more dangerous, and far from certain. Every step now carries more risk, and every plan must be approached with care, because Frank's unpredictability has become a constant. When the boat finally reaches Porlamar, on Margarita Island in Venezuela, MacNeil allows himself a brief moment of relief. After weeks of crossing the Atlantic, he tells himself that the hardest part is behind them. The rhythm of sailing, the watch shifts, the handling of the boat, the meals, they had all given structure. He imagines the worst is over. But it is here that the tension deepens. Instead of moving quickly to finish what they came for, everything stops. The crew is told it will only be a matter of days before the next step is ready. 2 days pass. Nothing happens. Another 2 days. Still no call. What was promised as a short pause stretches into a week, then into 2. The days begin to blur. The only routine is waking up each morning to be told that it will be soon, and going to bed each night with the same uncertainty unresolved. They are placed in a hotel. The rooms are small, the space is shared, and there are no clear answers. For MacNeil, the change is harder than the ocean crossing. On the water, there had been purpose and rhythm. Here on land, there is nothing to fill the hours. Nothing but waiting, watching, and wondering what is happening beyond the walls. During this waiting, Frank begins to act in ways that only increase the strain. He disappears for stretches of time. One day he is there, the next he is gone. The others search for him, asking at places he has been seen, but he leaves no trace. Days pass, food runs short, and still they do not know where he has gone. When he finally returns, he has a story ready. He claims his wife has cancer. He says he needs money to get home. The men listen. Despite their doubts, they gather what they can. Collections are made. Tickets are discussed. Frank takes what they give him. Then, as suddenly as ever, he vanishes again. For MacNeil and Whale, the effect is corrosive. The promises of quick movement are now just empty phrases. The group begins to lose trust, not only in Frank, but in the entire scheme. What seemed like a journey with purpose now feels like endless waiting, where every promise could be another lie. They whisper doubts about each other, wondering who knows more, who is holding back, and whether they have been told the truth at all. In a foreign place with little money left, their sense of exposure grows heavier with each passing day. The days without progress stretch into weeks. With each passing week, the waiting grows more unbearable. Tension coils tighter in every room, every shared hotel corridor. The air is thick with anticipation, suspicion, and frustration. Then one night, the silence is finally broken. The phone rings. MacNeil snatches it up. The voice on the other end offers nothing in the way of explanation. There is no apology and no attempt to justify the long delay. There are no reassurances, no discussion, only orders. Take a car, park it where instructed, leave the keys, walk away, Every word is clear, final, and commanding. The call ends as abruptly as it began. Weeks of forced waiting evaporate in an instant. The next stage has already started, and with it comes the knowledge that whatever happens now will be irreversible. MacNeil tells himself he has time, but he does not. The instructions are simple but exacting. Park the car in the designated spot. Leave the keys where indicated. Step away. Do not linger. MacNeil and Whale follow the instructions precisely. Every movement is measured, every step deliberate. 24 hours crawl by, each second stretched taut with mounting anxiety. When they return to the designated spot, the package is there, waiting. The weight alone is startling. Each bag weighs around 25 kilos. There is no attempt at subtlety. The contents are immediately obvious. Blocks of white substance sit plainly in view, boldly marked with large Ace of Clubs symbols. There is no disguise, no hiding, no subterfuge. The cargo makes itself known with ruthless clarity. Loading the boat becomes a meticulous ritual. Gloves, bright pink kitchen gloves, cover their hands. Those are the instructions, and it lends a surreal contrast to the deadly seriousness of the task. MacNeil and Whale remove the internal water tanks. That is not all they take out. Everything that is not necessary for survival has to go. The two fill all the compartments to capacity with the consignment. Yet no matter how carefully they move, the visibility of the cargo remains stark. Any observer could recognize precisely what they are handling. The scale of the operation hits them with the force of reality. The boat is no longer just a vessel. It is a symbol of freedom. It has become a floating container for millions of pounds of cocaine. Every motion, every decision carries enormous risk. One slip, one brief lapse of concentration, and disaster could strike instantly. The weight of responsibility presses down on MacNeil and Whale. It is heavy and unrelenting, because no one must see them. At least, not with the packages. The work is too much for just two men, but Frank has an ailing wife. Once the boat is fully loaded, they shift focus to the next task. The car must be returned for the next stage of the handover. Whale starts the engine and drives off, leaving MacNeil alone on the dock to reflect on the absurdity and danger of what they have just completed. The operation has progressed with ruthless efficiency. Every movement is precise, almost mechanical. Yet the sheer visibility of the cargo, stacked and marked so plainly, magnifies the stakes. Each bag, each block, each careful placement reminds them that a single error could have catastrophic consequences. MacNeil exhales, taking a long, steadying breath that fills his lungs before he releases it. The boat sits silent, heavy with its deadly load. Every creak of the hull, every rustle of canvas, a reminder that the danger has not passed. Weeks of anticipation, uncertainty, and tension have led to this moment. MacNeil knows that the next stage will demand every ounce of focus, courage, and precision they can summon. Whale returns from dropping off the car, and together they prepare to leave the marina, adrenaline still coursing through them from the operation. MacNeil thinks that taking a moment to relax, maybe even grabbing a beer, will help them pass the time. He does not want to spend his time guarding kilos of cocaine, even if it is worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. But the thought never gets the chance to take shape. As they step off the boat and move across the marina, they see lights in the distance. There is silence at first, but the presence is unmistakable. MacNeil's stomach drops. Their exit is cut off. There is no escape. The enormity of what they have done settles fully in MacNeil's mind. The boat is loaded. The package is visible. One misstep, one wrong decision, and the consequences will be immediate, irreversible, and severe. Maybe a bullet in the back. Arrest is imminent. The handover they had meticulously prepared for is over before it even begins, and there is nothing they can do about it. The tension is immediate. Seeing men in combat uniforms, not the guns, but the uniforms themselves, makes it real. It is happening. There is no turning back. The convoy begins to drive at a walking pace around the marina, heading toward the boat. MacNeil and Whale get on board. 6 or 7 National Guard, rifles slung, descend onto the vessel. They begin tearing the boat apart, demanding the location of the cargo. Within seconds, they find the first packet of cocaine. The operation collapses in an instant. The guards handcuff the 2 men. The mastermind is not there to face the consequences with them. The full gravity of a foreign justice system presses down. It is finished. This chapter is over. During the drive away from the marina, one of the troops tells MacNeil that the likely sentence is 24 years. That is a long time for a man in his 40s. The words hit like a fist in the stomach. Thoughts immediately turn to family, to the people left behind, to the consequences of every decision that has brought him here. The sense of unreality creeps in, as if he is watching from outside, detached from a world that has suddenly become alien, hostile, and permanent. The van pulls away from the quay. MacNeil watches the marina shrink. The boat where he held control, or thought he did, was fading from view. Every mile of the road magnifies the reality. The arrest is total, and the consequences are vast. A surprise would change everything, but no surprise happens. MacNeil does not yet know how. But the next chapter, the prison, is waiting, and it is going to be worse than he thinks. MacNeil and Whale spend 6 weeks in confinement before the Venezuelan authorities take them to court. The interpreter asks whether they are pleading guilty. They do have little room for maneuver. Evidence surrounds them. They are literally knee-deep in cocaine, and the prosecution's case is undeniable. There is no question about that, nor is there room for argument. And the British consul's legal representation does not help. Whale recalls that they never expected to get out. They never imagined seeing family again. Pleading guilty is grim, a calculation made under pressure. A third of the sentence is the only concession on offer. They stand and admit culpability, acknowledging a reality they cannot escape. The sentence comes after a tense, uncertain wait. 10 years are pronounced, then reduced by a third. 6 years. The words hit like a blow. MacNeil feels the weight immediately. He will miss his daughter's teenage years. By the time he sees her again, she will be an adult. Communication has continued up to the end of 2000, but the news from home only intensifies her anger and sense of betrayal. The distance stretches painfully, each day a reminder of time lost and connections strained. The trial resolves nothing about the prison to come. The sentence confirms that danger is real, that the stakes are absolute. The prison walls wait, silent, looming, ready to test every skill, every instinct. Survival will be measured not in days, but in constant vigilance, in choices that can cost a life. Everyday routines, the world they once knew, are gone. The open loop of the phone call, the unknown cargo, the strange route, the arrest, all of these have led here. Now the actual consequences begin. A Venezuelan prison awaits with its threats, factions, and brutality. The prison holds more than the capacity for which it was built. 6 years of confinement stretch ahead. It is less a sentence than a descent. It is a descent into hell. As the gates slam shut behind MacNeil and Whale, the prison of San Antonio unfolds before them. They get a warm welcome. One Danish inmate welcomes them to what he calls hell. And it is. The notorious island prison of San Antonio is made of concrete, steel, barbed wire, and the sound of constant gunfire. Walkways crisscross 3 floors below the surface. Prisoners have to walk around with knives, fists, and eyes that size you up instantly. The guards do not guard the prisoners. They do not come into the prison either. The prison is for the prisoners to defend, and they do so. The San Antonio prison has wings, just 2. Different factions claim the wings, control corridors, dictate survival. A grenade detonates somewhere overhead. Every breath tastes of sweat, smoke, and tension. Survival is measured in seconds, in choices made before they can be reconsidered. Violence is constant. Stabbings erupt in stairwells. Shootings punctuate courtyards. Executions happen without pause, without ceremony. The prisoners watch, heart pounding, as prisoners negotiate life with silent codes. Allies are recognized by the smallest gestures. One wrong glance, one misstep, could be the last. One of Whale's friends dies simply because he is waiting for him. The air presses down. Sleep is disrupted. Food is scarce. Water is rationed. Weeks pass. Months pass. MacNeil and Whale learn to survive the chaos, adapting and learning that choices haunt them long after the moment passes. Every day lived is provisional. Every night survived is temporary. The prison remains relentless. Every hour is measured by survival. Every step is a negotiation with violence and unpredictability. Fear is constant. Hunger, illness, and brutality become routine. Yet the sentence marks a line drawn. The journey is far from over, but survival demands strategy, vigilance, and acceptance of choices that will echo forever. Years pass. Finally, release arrives. They can leave prison. England unfolds in sharp, surreal detail. Streets, faces, air that smells of freedom yet carries the weight of years lost. Family reunions are immediate, intense, bittersweet. For Whale, hugs, tears, and laughter mingle with absence, and the knowledge that time has been irretrievably stolen. The ordinary feels extraordinary. For MacNeil, it is different. Reflection comes slowly. The act that led to this is starkly evident. Foolish, wrong, and irrevocable. There is no plea for forgiveness, only a plea for chance. Life can always be irreversibly altered, and that lesson is learned too late. MacNeil looks at his daughter, now an adult, and sees both the cost of choices and the possibility of a future unshackled by the past. Whale does the same with his own family. Normality exists externally, but internally, the shadow of fear, survival, and regret stretches long, impossible to shake, impossible to undo. Decisions made in minutes echo across oceans and prisons, stretching into lost birthdays, stolen milestones, and unspoken fears. MacNeil and Whale survived, but survival leaves its mark. What remains are scared memories, fractured time, and a constant awareness of how fragile life's path can be. The story does not end with a lesson or a lecture. It ends with lives irrevocably altered, choices carried across continents, and the quiet, lingering question of what might have been. If you want more stories that uncover the hidden sides of human ambition and the unexpected consequences of action, subscribe and hit the notification bell. Every journey has its shadows. Let us see where they lead next, together.